I don't know if you guys seen this, but have you seen the video on the world's largest 3DS?
This
Shut up. Um, so this guy has a 3DS, and he's like, "Hey, let's make let's make a full size, like human cabinet size 3DS with a 3D TV to get the 3D effect." It is stupid. Like these buttons here, not that, the actual buttons. So I think the start and select buttons are like typical buttons you would see on like a arcade cabinet. These are just ridiculous. I think my favorite part actually is the thumbstick, because this thing is just, it is a absolute chonker. Like, this is such a cool and dumb project. Wait, new stylus. What's this? I didn't see the stylus. Show me the stylus. Oh my god, it's a giant pen. That's actually incredible. This is completely ridiculous. Like, is this a practical way to play 3DS games? No. Is this a good way to play 3DS games? No. Is this a cool way to play 3DS games? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, this is such a ridiculous way. And, like, it's, the screen's so big that you want, like, you want to actually play it in 3D. You don't even, like, you know, a lot of the 3DS games people would play, people didn't want to do 3D with them. Like, no one cares about 3D on the 3DS. Everyone just turned it off because it just wasted battery life, wasn't really that good of an effect, had to be on a very specific angle. Oh, and you can actually, I didn't see this part. You can control it from an actual DS. Oh my god. This, oh god, playing Dream Drop Distance on this would be a nightmare. Oh, it's also being controlled by... It's being controlled by a Steam Deck. Okay, that's actually kind of awesome. Honestly, I love, like, stupid projects like this. This is like, as I said, this is a completely impractical way to play any video game. It might be cool, like, it might be cool as a demo. Like, you can just show, like, look at this crazy thing. You can just play a giant game on it. But it's so impractical. But it's so cool nonetheless. And I love that the DS and the 3DS are still getting attention. Like, these are ancient systems. But the DS especially, the 3DS was just more DS plus 3D that everyone turned off. The DS especially was such a different kind of console. And when you try to go back and emulate games on a DS, there are so many games that just can't be played the same way unless you're playing on actual hardware. Like, okay, when we talk about, you know, PS2 games, PS1 games, things like that, if you emulate, what's a good example? Something that's not been re-released. You know what, fuck, we'll pick something that has been released. If you go play Kingdom Hearts 1, before the HD remix came out, before it came out on PC, a lot of people would just emulate the PS2 version. And the experience you get emulating a PS2 game is pretty much the experience of playing it on PS2 hardware. It's probably going to be at a higher res, especially if you've upscaled it. It's probably not going to be on a shit TV like you would have played on when the PS2 came out, but the game itself is going to be the game. And the same is true for pretty much every single console, with the exception of the DS. A lot of DS games are fine, But when we're talking about, the games that are heavy touchscreen use, like Pokemon Ranger, like The World Ends With You. Even if you do the setup that I did for playing The World Ends With You, I was playing on a drawing tablet. It's playable, but a lot of the systems in The World Ends With You are based around the screen being the DS screen size. So a lot of the also just having a stylus directly on the part where you're gonna see it. So you can play it, but a lot of things are like this is a bit harder than they would have been playing on hardware that was designed to be like that. And the same with Pokemon Ranger. Like Pokemon Ranger, you have on the DS, you have a very small screen. And the idea with Pokemon Ranger is basically you draw circles around Pokemon, and that is how you catch them. See if I can find it. Pokemon Ranger gameplay. Here we go. Here we go. So basically you just draw circles around them, and it has a number of circles you have to draw. The problem with doing this on anything bigger than a DS is you have to draw things that are bigger than a DS screen. And this is kind of inconvenient. Like, it's really annoying. It can be done, but, like, it's just nowhere near... It's nowhere near the experience of playing on that. I don't know of a single other... Maybe... No, not even the... Maybe you can make the argument for the Wii? But if a game requires, like, the Wii motion, you basically have to play it with a Wii controller anyway. If it's a game that doesn't require the Wii motion, you could have always just played it on a GameCube controller or a Wii Pro controller. I don't think there's a single... I don't think there's really much else where it's so different. Like, the same with, that exercise game on Switch. Like, that's a game that sort of requires you to have that extra hardware to make it make sense. But in the case of DS games, like, this is something built into the DS. There are so many DS games where they just don't work unless you are on the DS. Like, Nintendogs is another great example. You can play it with a drawing tablet, but the parts that require the touchscreen just, they don't play the same way. I think the closest experience you could get isn't using one of the cheap drawing tablets. It's one of the drawing displays. One of those tablets that have an actual screen on it. So then you can see exactly where your stylus is. That, I think, might give you a reasonable approximation of the experience. That's about as close as you could reasonably get not playing on actual hardware. But that's just my experience. Maybe you prefer it. Maybe you prefer playing DS games emulated with, like, drawing tablets, things like that.